Well, thank you everybody for sticking around for today. This has been our spring performance for the RIT Jazz Ensembles, and as I had mentioned earlier in the program, we're very fortunate here to have quite a few different performing jazz ensembles and combos and small groups, and the students have been doing tremendous work all year, and we're definitely very proud of them. So for the final group tonight, we have our Tuesday-Thursday Jazz Ensemble. This is one of our audition into groups, and so you're going to hear some different music than some of the things that we've played into a little bit earlier today. A lot of really, really interesting repertoire. We'd like to continue this program in this first part of the set with a song that's entitled Up for Air, written by composer Matt Harris, who's based on the West Coast. This song uses the form of the song I've Got Rhythm, a George Gershwin song. Some of you may know it. Uses the form of that song, and he changes some things around and wrote a new melody for it. So if you're really keen, you might be able to hear I've Got Rhythm. If you're not, then he's disguised it very, very, very well. But this is called Up for Air. It's got a little bit of a kind of a funk and soul vibe to it, so we hope you enjoy it. about a hand? You heard Brian on keyboard. Mike on guitar. And Shane on tenor saxophone. Any of you here I got rhythm in there? If you did, you probably should be at music school. So we're going to continue our program now with another piece that we've had a lot of fun putting together. And these guys all groan whenever I do a piece by Bob Mintzer, but we're going to do a piece by saxophonist, composer, arranger Bob Mintzer. This one's entitled Heart of... Oh, we're changing the program. I forgot we had an addition, so I go through the planning process every spring. I try to find songs that I think will go well together and come up with a program ahead of time. And going back to the first week of January, our keyboardist Brian said, well, I have something that I've arranged, and I wonder if the band could read it. And so I said, sure, we'd love to read it. Anytime anybody can write something and do a student composition, it's always a lot of fun. And so he brought this piece in, and we played it and loved it. And so we're going to play it for you now. So I wasn't familiar with this before, but it's a song that's out there now called Mo Bamba. And Brian rearranged this, and anything you want to say about it, Brian?
I hope you enjoy Mo Bamba.
You heard it from the man himself. So this is Brian's arrangement of Mo Bamba. Another hand for our arranger, Brian. also heard on guitar on that one, Avier. Give a hand up. So the band was reminding me that when you stand in front of really bright lights for a long time, sometimes it fries your brain and you get senior moments and forget what the right thing is that's coming next. So we're going to save the Bob Mintzer piece for later. We'd like to switch over our rhythm section, I think, at this point a little bit, and while they're getting set up, tell you about the next piece that we're going to do out of the Thad Jones Mel Lewis library. It's a really, really neat piece, and we were looking a couple weeks ago for something else to add to our program today. And again, pulling music from a lot of the different great repertoires, the big bands, Count Basie, Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, Duke Ellington, a lot of those, we said, let's see what's out there that we can do that's short and sweet and kind of sums up all the feelings that we've had and things that we love getting together and rehearsing what would do this. And we found this really interesting short piece from Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. It's a bossa nova, and it's entitled "It Only Happens Every Time." And so you're going to hear on this one our pianist Jessica. She has a solo section. And I think that's it on this one. But this is Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. It only happens every time. Thank you. That's Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. It only happens every time. How about a hand for Jessica on piano? And also, I forgot to mention on trumpet, we do trumpet, Troy. So now we're going to switch gears, and we are going to play the Bob Mintzer song that I was talking about before. This is called Heart of the Matter. There's a number of soloists you're going to hear from the band. You're going to hear Alex on baritone, saxophone, you'll hear Shane on tenor, Daniel on trumpet. I'm going to grab my cheat sheet. Also Deegan on alto, and then Sam on guitar. So this is Bob Mintzer's Heart of the Matter. Another hand for our soloists. We have Alex on baritone, Daniel on trumpet, Shane on saxophone, with Sam on guitar, and Vegan on alto. So the next piece that we have is a really unique arrangement that was done on an old piece that was made popular by Art Tatum called Willow Weep for Me. And if you haven't checked out pianist Art Tatum, he's a really, really interesting musician to listen to and to check out some of his recordings. He was blind and taught himself to play by listening to the records that he had at home. And he had, some of his albums were two pianists, this Dueling Pianos album. And he didn't realize that it was actually two individuals that were playing at once. And so he learned to comp his style after two pianists, not just one. So he's a really, really dynamic and interesting pianist. I would highly recommend checking out Art Tatum if you haven't. But one of the pieces that he really made famous and popular was Willow Weep for Me. And so I was looking through our library earlier this spring and found an arrangement of Willow Weep for Me that was done by a gentleman named Bob Brookmeyer, who was a trombonist, composer, arranger. He got his start with the Claude Thornhill Orchestra, who was a early big band back in the 1930s. He did a lot of their arranging and performing and playing. Bob had started off as a pianist, and so he was hired by Claude to do a lot of their arrangements for dance bands and for different touring operations. And so Bob did a lot of that for a long time, and all of a sudden decided that he'd rather play a horn. And so he looked around and found this trombone with valves on it, which they call a valve trombone. And our trombonists have slides. It kind of looks like a hybrid between a trombone and a trumpet, which is a really interesting instrument. So he gravitated toward that and then joined up with a fellow named Jerry Mulligan, who was a baritone saxophone player. And that's where he kind of first got his fame as a writer and as a jazz trombone player. We lost Bob probably 5 or 6 years ago. I had the good fortune to get to play with him on one occasion. He really is one of those names in jazz that had a lot of influence in the way that music was written and composed from a very, very early time on, kind of all the way up until his death. And so I was looking at this piece, and one of the things that Bob Brookmeyer is known for is really kind of pushing the limits of harmony and what people are used to hearing. And so he took this traditional song that was made popular by Art Tatum, and he really started messing with a lot of the different harmonies and things that happen. So there's a lot of very crunchy chords and bright and vibrant sounding things, and we thought this would be a really good challenge to have everybody in the orchestra work on this and to play this for you today, because I'm not sure the last time when there was a band at RIT that could play this song. So this is going to be our version of Art Tatum's Willow Weep for Me, arranged by Bob Brookmeyer. So please enjoy. You're also going to hear a couple of trumpet soloists on this. You're going to hear Troy and you're going to hear Rick taking the melody. They're going to kind of trade back and forth as we go. So, Willow Weep for Me. Enjoy. hand again for Troy and Rick on that split lead trumpet part. I'd also like to recognize our trombonist Andrew, who you heard from on that as well. And then a short little section from Isaac, our bassist. Well, I do want to thank you all for coming out today. We had a great afternoon with the 3 different jazz ensembles that we have at RIT this semester. So we're calling it our Spring Jazz Festival at RIT. While we're getting our drums changed over, I'll tell you a little bit about the last piece that we're going to do. As I mentioned before, we really like to pull some different repertoire from some of the well-known big bands that are out there. And one that we haven't done in a long time is the Stan Kenton Orchestra. Stan Kenton was a band leader out of Texas. He had this great, big, loud band, kind of in the style and tradition of Buddy Rich. So you have these great big brass sections with trumpets and trombones and lots of loud things happening and saxophones doing all kinds of fireworks and pyrotechnics with notes going all over the place. And we haven't really done any of his music yet. And so I was digging through what we had in our library and remembered from long ago there was a piece that I loved to play and loved to listen to. It was an old song called Malagueña. And the Stan Kenton Orchestra took that and they rearranged it to be this kind of angsty, boiling, ready to kind of explode and turn over section into this big band, great shout chorus, so a lot of energy and things. And we said this would be a great ending piece to do for the band where we get to feature a bunch of different soloists and kind of a lot of the dynamic range of what the band can do. There's a lot of things going on in the rhythm section, and the saxes have, again, a lot of those quick moving notes and things happening, and then the brass really do have, I call them the jet engine. They sound like a jet engine when they get going, all this energy coming off of them. And so it's really, really unique and interesting arrangement to get to listen to and to get to play. So we wanted to end with something really, really on a high note, and this seemed like a perfect way to do it. We do have a couple soloists that I'll recognize before we get to play. You're going to hear from Avier on guitar. You're going to hear from Jessica on piano, and I believe Shane? Not Shane. Oh, and Andrew. Andrew's playing trombone solo on this as well, so you're going to get to hear from the 3 of them. We were also very fortunate this semester to get one of our alumni back that you're going to hear on lead trumpet. He was with us last semester and is coming back this semester to play. I want to recognize Jack Hoffman for coming back. I also want to give a shout out to the band because we talked about dress code and what to wear, and we said to business casual look nice, and they all came in jazz black, uncoordinated. Maybe they had a little coordination behind my back. So we want to thank you for being here. This is Stan Kenton's Malagueña. I'm going to hand the Tuesday, Thursday RIT Jazz Ensemble. I want to thank you all again for coming. Please drive safely this afternoon. We'll see you again in the fall.